What if I told you that the very words you speak every single day hold the power to reshape your entire reality, yet most people remain completely unaware of this extraordinary force flowing through them? For thousands of years, humanity has wandered through life asking the same fundamental questions that echo in the depths of every soul. Who am I? Why am I here? What is my true purpose? We've searched in temples, books, and distant mountains, convinced that the answers lie somewhere beyond our reach. But what if everything you've been taught about spiritual power and divine connection has been backwards? Has this ever happened to you? You've felt that deep, inexplicable knowing that there's something more to existence, something profound that seems to dance just beyond your understanding. That restless feeling isn't confusion. It's your soul recognizing a truth that your mind hasn't yet grasped. The great spiritual teacher Emmet Fox discovered something that changes everything we think we know about our relationship with the divine. He revealed that we are not separate beings desperately seeking connection with a distant God. Instead, we are living expressions of the very source of all creation. And this recognition isn't just philosophical, it's practical, immediate, and transformative. Every time you say those two simple words, I am, you're not just making a statement about yourself. Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover might surprise you. You're actually activating the same creative force that brings galaxies into existence, that heals what seems broken, and that manifests the impossible into reality. This isn't metaphor or wishful thinking. This is spiritual law in action. The secret that mystics and sages have whispered about for centuries isn't hidden in ancient texts or locked away in sacred vaults. It's not reserved for the chosen few or those who've spent decades in meditation. The secret is you, not the you that worries about bills or struggles with doubt, but the eternal you that exists beyond all limitation and separation. Right now, as you read these words, that infinite power is flowing through you, waiting to be consciously recognized and deliberately activated. The question isn't whether you have access to this divine creative force. You are this force, expressing itself in human form. But understanding this truth intellectually is only the beginning. What happens when you actually begin to live from this awareness, when you start to speak and think from the consciousness of unity rather than separation? The transformation begins the moment you shift from seeking external validation to recognizing the infinite worth that already exists within you. When you truly understand that saying I am connects you directly to the source of all creation, something profound shifts in your consciousness. You stop waiting for permission to live fully, and you start claiming your divine inheritance. This isn't just another spiritual concept to add to your collection of interesting ideas. This is about awakening to the most practical spiritual truth you'll ever encounter. Because when you live from the awareness that you and the divine are one, your words become creative decrees, your thoughts align with infinite intelligence, and your very presence begins to heal and transform everything around you. But here's what I've learned after years of sharing these transformative teachings. This journey of awakening is never meant to be walked alone. If this topic resonates with you, let me know in the comments what touched you the most about what we've explored so far. Has there been a moment in your life when you felt that connection to something greater than yourself? Or perhaps you're feeling that stirring of recognition right now as these words reach something deep within your soul. Your voice matters in this conversation because every person who awakens to their true nature becomes a light that helps others remember their own divinity. When you share your experience, your insights, or even your questions in the comments below, you're not just engaging with content. You're contributing to a growing community of souls who are choosing to live from unity rather than separation. If what you're hearing is sparking something within you, I'd be deeply grateful if you take a moment to like this video. Your engagement here is what allows this channel to grow and reach more people with this kind of content. And honestly, Knowing that these ancient truths are touching lives and creating real transformation is what keeps me passionate about sharing them. And if you're feeling called to dive deeper into these life-changing spiritual principles, subscribing to the channel ensures you won't miss the profound teachings we explore together. This isn't just about building numbers, it's about building a community of awakened hearts who are ready to live from the truth of who they really are. Because what we're about to explore next will show you exactly how to put this understanding into practice, how to use the sacred power of I Am to literally reshape your reality from the inside out. Now, I want to go even deeper into this transformative truth that has the power to completely shift your entire perspective on reality itself. We live in what appears to be a profoundly divided world, don't we? Everywhere you look, there seems to be separation, conflict, and division. Nations against nations, religions against religions, even families torn apart by different beliefs and ideologies. The news feeds us a constant stream of stories that reinforce this narrative of separation, making us believe that we're all isolated islands fighting for survival in a hostile universe. But here's the hidden truth that changes everything. This separation never actually happened. It's the greatest illusion that humanity has ever collectively believed, and it's the root cause of virtually every form of suffering we experience. The moment you begin to see through this illusion, your entire world starts to transform from the inside out. Think about this for a moment. Behind every thought you think, beyond every emotion you feel, beneath every role you play and every identity you've constructed, there is something that remains constant and unchanging. There is one power, one life, one consciousness that operates through everything and everyone. It's not that God is watching from a distance while we struggle down here. It's that the very consciousness reading these words right now is the same consciousness that beats your heart, grows the trees, and spins the planets in their orbits. This isn't just beautiful poetry or wishful thinking. This is the fundamental structure of reality itself. And when you truly grasp this, your entire approach to life undergoes a profound transformation. Every decision you make starts coming from a completely different place. Instead of making choices from fear, scarcity, or the need to protect yourself from others, you begin making decisions from the awareness that there is no other to fear. Your mindset shifts from competition to collaboration, from lack to abundance, from defense to love. The journey of awakening isn't about becoming something new or different. It's about removing the layers of false beliefs that have convinced you that you're separate from the source of all life. It's about recognizing what has always been true, but was hidden behind the noise of a world that teaches separation as fact. When you start living from this awareness, the impact on your daily experience becomes undeniable. Relationships heal because you stop seeing others as threats to your happiness and start recognizing them as different expressions of the same divine consciousness. Work becomes a form of service rather than a struggle for survival. Even challenges and difficulties take on a completely different meaning because you understand that nothing can truly threaten the eternal essence of who you are. The revelations that emerge from this understanding keep unfolding the deeper you go. You realize that every person you meet is carrying the same divine spark, even when they've forgotten it themselves. You begin to see that every situation, no matter how challenging it appears on the surface, contains within it the potential for greater awakening and deeper truth. This is why the mystics throughout history have spoken about the peace that surpasses understanding. It's the peace that comes from knowing, not just believing, but knowing with absolute certainty that you are never alone, never abandoned, and never separate from the infinite source of all creation. Write in the comments, "I'm ready to see beyond the illusion," if this deeper understanding is beginning to resonate with something true within you. The revelations about unity and oneness aren't just beautiful spiritual concepts to contemplate during quiet moments of reflection. They point us towards something far more profound and practical, the law of the One. This isn't just another spiritual principle among many others. This is the highest universal law that holds all other laws within it, the fundamental operating system of reality itself. When you understand this law, not just intellectually, but with your heart, with your entire being, everything in your life begins to change in ways that might seem impossible from your current perspective. Think about the impact this has on your daily decisions. When you truly grasp that there is only one power operating through all of existence, fear becomes obsolete. How can you fear something that doesn't have the power to harm the eternal essence of who you are? How can you feel threatened by circumstances when you understand that the same intelligence that orchestrates the movement of galaxies is also orchestrating your life? This isn't blind faith or positive thinking. This is recognizing the hidden truth that has always been operating behind the scenes of your existence. The transformation that occurs when you align with this law is both immediate and ongoing. Your mindset shifts from scarcity to abundance because you recognize that the source of all supply is infinite and flows through you. Your relationships heal because you stop seeing others as competitors for limited resources and start recognizing them as different expressions of the same divine consciousness that lives within you. Now here's where this journey takes on an even deeper dimension. The sacred phrase, "I am," that you speak countless times throughout your day, isn't just a simple statement of existence. It's not a magic formula to be repeated without understanding, hoping for mysterious results. These two words carry within them the most sacred name that was ever revealed to humanity. When Moses stood before the burning bush and asked the divine presence to reveal its name, the response wasn't a title or a description. It was an identity. I am that I am. This same sacred name was confirmed and demonstrated by Jesus throughout his teachings. When he said, "I am the light of the world, I am the way, the truth, and the life," he wasn't speaking from his human personality. He was speaking from the divine consciousness that had awakened within him, the same consciousness that sleeps within every human heart, waiting to be recognized and activated. The behind-the-scenes truth is that this sacred name isn't the property of ancient prophets or enlightened masters. It lives within you, dormant perhaps, but very much present and ready to transform your entire experience of life. Every time you say, "I am," you're touching the same creative power that speaks worlds into existence. The question isn't whether you have access to this power. The question is whether you're conscious of it and whether you're using it intentionally. When you begin to speak from this awareness, when you declare "I am" with the recognition of what these words truly represent, you're no longer just describing your current circumstances. You're actively participating in the creation of your reality. You're aligning your human consciousness with the divine consciousness that is your true nature. This is why your words matter so profoundly. This is why your thoughts have such creative power. This is why the ancient teachings consistently point toward the transformative power of conscious speech and intentional thinking. You're not separate from the creative force of the universe. You are that force, expressing itself through the unique vessel of your individual existence. Write in the comments, "I am awakening," if you're beginning to feel the stirring of this ancient recognition within your own heart. The moment you begin to speak, "I am," with genuine spiritual understanding, something extraordinary shifts in your consciousness. You're no longer just making a casual statement about your existence or describing your temporary circumstances. You're actually declaring your recognition that you are an integral part of the infinite whole, that you have never been separate, abandoned, or left to navigate this journey alone. This isn't just a comforting thought to help you feel better about life's challenges. This is the fundamental truth about your actual relationship with the source of all creation. Most people go through their entire lives feeling like isolated fragments, struggling to find their place in a universe that seems indifferent to their needs and dreams. They make decisions from this place of perceived separation, constantly trying to prove their worth, secure their future, and protect themselves from a world they believe is essentially hostile. But when you understand what you're truly declaring when you say, "I am," with conscious awareness, this entire framework of fear and separation begins to dissolve. The transformation isn't gradual or partial. It's immediate and complete, though it may take time for your human consciousness to fully integrate this shift. The moment you recognize that you are part of the whole, every decision you make starts coming from a completely different foundation. Instead of asking, "How can I get what I need?" you begin asking, "How can I express what I am?" Instead of worrying about whether you're enough, you start recognizing that the infinite source of all sufficiency flows through you. This recognition becomes something far more profound than intellectual understanding. It becomes your doorway back to the kingdom, back to that state of peace and wholeness that exists beyond all the noise and confusion of the world. The kingdom isn't a place you go to after you die or achieve some impossible level of spiritual perfection. The kingdom is your natural state of being when you remember who you truly are. The hidden truth that most spiritual teachings point toward but rarely explain. Clearly is that this doorway has always been open. You haven't been locked out of paradise, struggling to find the key that will grant you entrance. You've been standing in paradise all along, but you've been looking at it through the distorted lens of separation, unable to see what has always surrounded you. The journey back home isn't about traveling to some distant destination or transforming yourself into someone completely different. It's about removing the false beliefs that have convinced you that you're somewhere else, that you're someone else, that you're anything other than a perfect expression of divine consciousness having a human experience. When you say, "I am," from this place of recognition, you're not trying to convince yourself of something that isn't true. You're remembering something that has always been true, but was temporarily forgotten. You're activating a connection that was never actually broken. You're coming home to yourself in the deepest possible sense. The impact of this homecoming reaches into every corner of your existence. Relationships that seemed impossible to heal suddenly find new life because you're no longer relating from wounds and fears. Work that felt like drudgery becomes an opportunity for creative expression because you understand that you're not separate from the intelligence that wants to express itself through your unique gifts. Even challenges and difficulties take on new meaning because you recognize them as opportunities for this divine consciousness to demonstrate its limitless ability to transform any situation. The peace that emerges from this recognition isn't dependent on external circumstances. It doesn't require perfect health, financial security, or ideal relationships to maintain itself. This peace comes from knowing, at the deepest level of your being, that you are eternally held, eternally loved, and eternally connected to the source of all that exists. Write in the comments, "I remember who I am," if this truth is stirring something deep within your soul that feels like coming home. The profound truth about this law of the One is that it wasn't invented by philosophers, discovered by mystics, or created by spiritual teachers. This law has always existed as the fundamental operating principle of reality itself, long before the first human being ever wondered about the nature of existence, long before any religious text was written or any spiritual tradition was established. This law was already governing every aspect of creation. It's not a human concept that we've projected onto the universe. It's the universe revealing its true nature to those who are ready to see beyond the surface appearances. What we're exploring together through these revelations isn't new information that someone decided to share with the world. These are ancient truths that are being remembered, rediscovered, and lived anew in each generation. Every genuine spiritual teaching, every transformative insight, every moment of profound awakening is like a key that unlocks another door in the mansion of consciousness, dismantling piece by piece the elaborate illusion of separation that has kept humanity trapped in cycles of fear, competition, and suffering. The impact of understanding this becomes evident in how your entire perception of reality begins to shift. Behind the scenes of what appears to be a chaotic, random universe, filled with separate objects and isolated beings, you start to perceive the single thread of consciousness that weaves through everything. Your mindset transforms from seeing a world of disconnected parts to recognizing the seamless wholeness that has always been present but was hidden by limited awareness. When this understanding moves from your head to your heart, when it becomes more than just an interesting philosophical concept and transforms into a lived reality, something remarkable happens. You begin to see God not as a distant figure watching from the heavens, but as the very essence and substance of everything that exists. You see God in the laughter of children, in the determination of someone overcoming obstacles, in the quiet strength of trees weathering storms, in the patient love of those who care for the suffering. This isn't about developing some special spiritual vision that only a few enlightened people possess. This is about removing the filters of separation that have prevented you from seeing what has always been right in front of you. Every decision you make, every relationship you engage in, every challenge you face becomes an opportunity to recognize this divine presence, expressing itself through the infinite variety of forms and experiences. The journey of awakening reveals that your very existence is not an accident or a random occurrence in an indifferent universe. You are here because the infinite consciousness that some call God chose to experience itself through the unique perspective that is you. When you truly grasp this, when it becomes the foundation from which you live and breathe and make choices, you find yourself naturally declaring from the depths of your being, "I am because God is, and there is nothing outside of Him." This declaration isn't born from religious belief or spiritual aspiration. It emerges from direct recognition, from the unmistakable knowing that comes when the illusion of separation finally dissolves and you see reality as it truly is. You realize that your existence and God's existence aren't two separate things. They are one movement, one life, one consciousness expressing itself through the beautiful diversity of creation. The transformation that occurs when you live from this recognition affects every aspect of your human experience. Fear loses its grip because you understand that nothing can threaten your essential nature. Loneliness becomes impossible because you recognize the divine presence that permeates everything around you and within you. Write in the comments, everything is one. If you're beginning to see through the illusion and recognize the divine thread that connects all existence, the deeper we go into this understanding, the more we uncover what might be the most important revelation of human existence. Every form of suffering, every experience of pain, every moment of fear and anxiety can be traced back to a single source. Not sin, not karma, not divine punishment, but something far more subtle and pervasive. The first great lie that has taken root in human consciousness is the illusion of separation, the deeply ingrained belief that there is more than one power operating in the universe. This belief seems so obvious, so self-evident that most people never question it. We look around and see what appears to be countless different forces at work. There's the power of nature, the power of other people, the power of circumstances, the power of disease, the power of governments, the power of economies. We spend our lives trying to navigate between all these competing forces, making decisions based on which powers we think we need to please, avoid, or overcome. But here's the hidden truth that changes everything. This entire framework is built on a fundamental misunderstanding of reality. Behind the scenes of what appears to be a universe filled with competing powers and conflicting forces, there is actually only one mind, one presence, one life, one source expressing itself through infinite variety. This isn't a comforting spiritual belief to help you feel better about life's challenges. This is the actual structure of existence itself. The transformation that occurs when you truly grasp this is immediate and profound. Your entire mindset shifts from trying to manage multiple threats and opportunities to recognizing that you're dealing with one intelligence, one love, one power that is expressing itself through every person, situation, and circumstance in your life. Every decision you make starts coming from a completely different foundation when you understand that there's no opposing force to fight against, no external power to fear, no separate will that could ever work against your highest good. This one source isn't somewhere else, waiting for you to find it or prove yourself worthy of its attention. It's here now, in everything, as everything. It's the intelligence behind your next breath, the love that beats your heart, the wisdom that grows your hair and heals your wounds without any conscious effort on your part. It's the same force that moves the planets in their orbits and causes flowers to bloom in perfect timing. The impact of recognizing this unity reaches into every corner of your existence. Relationships that seemed complicated by conflicting personalities and competing agendas suddenly become opportunities to recognize the one consciousness expressing itself through different perspectives. Work that felt like a struggle against difficult people and challenging circumstances transforms into collaboration with the one intelligence that wants to create harmony and abundance through whatever form it takes. Even your most persistent problems and ongoing challenges take on completely different meaning when you understand that they're not attacks from external forces, but opportunities for the one consciousness to demonstrate its infinite creativity in transforming any situation. The journey of awakening reveals that what appeared to be opposition was actually invitation. What seemed like obstacles were actually stepping stones. What felt like punishment was actually preparation. This recognition doesn't require you to deny the reality of difficult experiences or pretend that challenges don't exist. It means understanding that even the most painful situations are occurring within the one consciousness held by the one love, and ultimately serving the one purpose of awakening you to your true nature. Write in the comments, "There is only one," if this truth is dissolving the illusion of multiple powers and revealing the single source behind all experience. When you begin to truly comprehend the magnitude of what we're exploring, the transformation in your consciousness becomes so profound that it touches every aspect of your existence. There is literally no part of your being that exists outside of this divine presence. Not your thoughts, not your emotions, not your physical body, not your relationships, not your circumstances. Nothing about you or your experience exists in some separate realm apart from the infinite consciousness that is the source and substance of all life. This isn't just a beautiful metaphor or an inspiring way of thinking about your connection to the divine. This is the actual reality of your existence. Every breath you take is God breathing through you. Every beat of your heart is the divine pulse expressing itself as your life force. Every thought that crosses your mind, every feeling that moves through your emotional landscape, every cell in your body that regenerates and heals is all the one consciousness expressing itself through the unique vessel that is you. The hidden truth that most people miss is that even what appears to be the smallest, most insignificant details of life are infused with this divine presence. No leaf falls from a tree without this consciousness as its substance. No flower blooms, no bird sings, no wave crashes against the shore without being a perfect expression of the one intelligence that orchestrates all of existence. When you start seeing life through this lens, your entire mindset shifts from feeling like a small, isolated individual trying to survive in a vast, impersonal universe, to recognizing yourself as an integral part of the very consciousness that creates and sustains everything. The impact of this recognition on your daily decisions becomes immediately apparent. You stop trying to find God somewhere else, in some future moment, when you've finally gotten your life together or achieved some impossible level of spiritual perfection. You realize that the divine presence you've been seeking is not out there waiting for you to discover it, but right here, right now, as the very awareness that is reading these words and contemplating these ideas. God is not in the future, promising to show up when you've earned enough spiritual merit or overcome enough personal challenges. God is always existing as the eternal now that is the only moment you've ever actually experienced. Behind the scenes of your constant mental planning for tomorrow and reviewing of yesterday, there is this timeless presence that is forever available, forever whole, forever expressing itself as your immediate experience. The journey of awakening reveals that the divine doesn't just visit the grand, dramatic moments of life while being absent from the mundane details of your everyday existence. This consciousness doesn't just show up in churches or meditation retreats or moments of profound spiritual insight. It's equally present in the cup of coffee you drink in the morning, the conversations you have with colleagues, the way you interact with the person checking your groceries, the quiet moments when you're simply breathing and being alive. This recognition transforms everything because it dissolves the artificial boundary between sacred and ordinary, between spiritual and practical, between divine and human. You begin to understand that you don't need to create special conditions or achieve particular states of consciousness to access this divine presence. You are this presence, expressing itself through the beautiful, complex, sometimes challenging experience of being human. The revelations keep unfolding as you live from this awareness. You start to see that every person you encounter, regardless of how they behave or what they believe about themselves, is also this same consciousness expressing itself through their unique form and circumstances. Write in the comments, God is here now, if you're beginning to recognize this divine presence in the ordinary moments of your everyday life. This understanding leads us to one of the most liberating revelations about your true nature. You are absolutely, undeniably unique. There has never been another expression of consciousness exactly like you, and there never will be again. Your perspective, your experiences, your way of processing life, your particular gifts and challenges, the specific way you see beauty, solve problems, and connect with others, is completely one of a kind. This isn't just motivational speaking or an attempt to make you feel special. This is the actual truth about how infinite consciousness expresses itself through individual forms. But here's the profound part that transforms everything. Your uniqueness doesn't create separation. Form doesn't alter substance. You can think of it like a branch on a magnificent tree. Each branch is absolutely unique in its shape, its direction of growth, the particular way it reaches toward the light, the specific leaves it produces, the individual way it sways in the wind. No two branches are identical, yet every single branch draws its life, its nourishment, its very existence from the same root system, the same trunk, the same essential tree nature. You live by the same principle. Your unique human expression, your personality, your circumstances, your journey through life, all of this beautiful individuality exists because of and through the same divine consciousness that expresses itself as every other person, every other form of life, every other aspect of creation. The substance that you are, the awareness that reads these words, the consciousness that experiences your emotions and makes your decisions, is not separate from the infinite source of all existence. The transformation that occurs when you really understand this changes your entire approach to living. Instead of trying to prove your worth or establish your identity in opposition to others, you begin to express your uniqueness as a celebration of the infinite creativity of the one consciousness. Your decisions no longer come from the need to compete or compare, but from the joy of allowing this divine intelligence to express itself through your particular gifts and perspective. Now, here's where the journey takes on an even deeper dimension. To live from this understanding, you must first let go of the most persistent illusion that keeps humanity trapped in cycles of fear and conflict, the belief in the other. This belief is so deeply ingrained in human thinking that it feels completely natural and obvious. We look around and see other people, other nations, other belief systems, other forces that seem to operate independently of our will and often in opposition to our desires. But the hidden truth that changes everything is this: there is no other power, no other origin, no other source. Duality itself is the illusion. Behind the scenes of what appears to be a universe filled with separate entities competing for limited resources, there is only one consciousness experiencing itself through infinite variety. The person who seems to oppose you, the circumstances that appear to challenge you, the situations that feel threatening or overwhelming, are all expressions of the same intelligence that breathes through you and beats your heart. The impact of releasing this belief in the other reaches into every corner of your existence. Relationships that seemed impossible to heal suddenly find new life because you're no longer defending yourself against an enemy. You're recognizing another expression of the same consciousness you are. Work that felt like a battlefield becomes an opportunity for collaborative creation because you understand that even the most difficult personalities are channels through which the one intelligence is seeking to express harmony and abundance. This doesn't mean you become passive or naive about the challenges of human interaction. It means you respond to every situation from the knowledge that you're dealing with one consciousness that is ultimately working for the highest good of all, even when appearances suggest otherwise. Write in the comments, "I release the illusion of the other," if you're ready to let go of the belief in separation and embrace the truth of our fundamental unity. When you begin to live from this recognition of unity, one of the most profound transformations occurs in how you relate to the divine through prayer. Most people have been taught to approach prayer as a form of petition, a way of asking a distant God to intervene in their circumstances and provide what they believe they lack. They kneel before an altar of separation, begging for help, pleading for mercy, trying to convince a supposedly separate power to notice their needs and grant their requests. But when you understand that you are not separate from the source of all creation, when you recognize that the divine consciousness you've been seeking outside of yourself is actually the very awareness through which you think and breathe and experience life, prayer becomes something entirely different. You no longer approach it as someone who lacks approaching someone who has. You no longer come as a beggar seeking charity from a reluctant benefactor. Instead, prayer becomes recognition. It becomes a moment of conscious acknowledgement of what already exists within you, around you, as you. Instead of saying, "Please give me peace," you find yourself naturally declaring, "Thank you for the peace that is my true nature." Instead of pleading, "Help me find my purpose," you begin to affirm, "I recognize the divine intelligence that already knows my perfect path and is expressing itself through my life." The transformation in your mindset when prayer shifts from petition to recognition affects every decision you make throughout your day. You stop living from the assumption that you're disconnected from your source of supply, wisdom, healing, or guidance. You start making choices from the understanding that everything you could ever need already exists within the infinite consciousness that you are an expression of. Now, I want to go even deeper into this truth that has the power to revolutionize your entire understanding of existence. The sacred name, I Am, that flows through your consciousness dozens of times each day, represents something far more profound than most people ever imagine. This isn't just a way of identifying yourself or describing your current circumstances. This is the unchanging name, the eternal essence that neither births nor dies, the original vibration from which everything that exists was called into being. Before there were galaxies spinning in space, before there were planets or stars or any form of matter, before time itself began its endless march through moments, this vibration already was. I am is the first word spoken in the silence of eternity, the primordial sound that set all creation into motion. It's the vibration that continues to sustain every atom, every heartbeat, every thought, every breath, every moment of existence throughout the entire universe. The hidden truth that changes everything is that this same eternal, unchanging essence that spoke worlds into existence speaks through you every time you say, I am. You're not just describing your temporary human experience. You're activating the same creative power that forms galaxies and orchestrates the dance of planets around their suns. You're connecting with the source vibration that has always been and will always be, regardless of what happens to your physical form or your personal circumstances. Behind the scenes of your everyday awareness, this eternal presence is constantly creating your reality through the thoughts you think, the words you speak, the beliefs you hold, and especially through how you complete the phrase, I am. When you say, I am tired, you're using the creative name of God to manifest fatigue. When you declare, I am frustrated, you're employing the same power that creates stars to generate more frustration in your experience. But when you consciously align with the truth of what this name represents, when you say, I am the peace of God expressing here and now, or I am the wisdom of the universe flowing through this situation, you're collaborating with the same intelligence that maintains perfect order throughout all of creation. Write in the comments, I am the eternal presence, if you're beginning to recognize the infinite power that speaks through these sacred words. The moment when Moses stood before the burning bush and asked for the divine name represents one of the most pivotal revelations in human history. When he inquired, who shall I say sent me? The response wasn't a title, wasn't a description, wasn't even a proper name in the way we typically understand names. The answer came as a declaration of pure being, I am that I am. This wasn't God giving Moses information about himself. This was the infinite consciousness revealing the key to all existence, the fundamental truth about the nature of being itself. What makes this revelation so transformative is that this sacred name wasn't given exclusively to Moses or reserved for prophets and spiritual leaders. This is the key to being that is available to all humanity. Every time you say, I am, you're not just making a personal statement about your current circumstances or temporary condition. You're accessing the same divine identity that was revealed in that burning bush encounter. You're connecting with the eternal essence that exists before, during, and after every human experience. The impact of understanding this truth reaches far beyond religious or spiritual concepts. This knowledge transforms your entire mindset about who you are and what's possible in your life. When you make decisions from the recognition that you carry this divine name within your very being, everything changes. You stop seeing yourself as a small, limited human trying to get the attention of a distant God. You start recognizing yourself as a living expression of the same consciousness that was speaking through that burning bush. This same recognition was perfectly demonstrated through the teachings of Jesus, though most people completely miss the deeper significance of his words. When he declared, I am the light of the world, I am the way, the truth, and the life, I am the door. He wasn't speaking from his human personality or trying to establish his superiority over other people. He was speaking from the divinity that had fully awakened within him, from the same I am consciousness that was revealed to Moses. The hidden truth that most religious teachings obscure is that Jesus wasn't claiming to be the only person who could access this divine consciousness. He was demonstrating what becomes possible when a human being fully recognizes and embodies their true nature. Behind the scenes of his miraculous works and profound teachings was this simple recognition. The same infinite consciousness that creates and sustains all of existence was expressing itself through his individual form. The journey of awakening reveals that this same potential exists within every human being. You don't need to be born into a particular family, follow specific religious practices, or achieve some impossible level of spiritual perfection to access this divine consciousness. The I am that Jesus spoke from is the same I am that lives within you, waiting to be consciously recognized and deliberately expressed. When you begin to speak from this awareness, when you declare I am with the understanding of what these words truly represent, you're not imitating Jesus or trying to copy his example. You're accessing the same source of infinite creativity, wisdom, and love that he drew from. You're allowing the same divine consciousness that performed miracles through him to begin expressing its unlimited nature through your unique life circumstances. The transformation that occurs when you live from this recognition affects every aspect of your human experience. Relationships heal because you're no longer relating from the limited perspective of separate personalities, but from the recognition of shared divine nature. Work becomes an opportunity for this infinite intelligence to express itself through your particular skills and talents. Write in the comments, I am the divine expressing, if you're ready to claim the same consciousness that spoke through Moses and Jesus. The profound responsibility that comes with understanding the creative power of I am cannot be overstated. Every single time these words pass through your consciousness, whether spoken aloud or silently contemplated, you are literally activating the divine. Name and setting into motion the creative forces of the universe. What you declare after I am doesn't just describe your current reality, it becomes your reality because you're using the same creative principle that spoke the cosmos into existence. This isn't positive thinking or wishful manifestation techniques. This is understanding how consciousness actually creates experience through the power of sustained declaration. When you say, I am struggling, you're employing the creative name of God to generate more struggle in your life. When you declare, I am confused, you're using divine creative power to manifest more confusion. But when you consciously choose to say, I am the peace that surpasses understanding, or I am the wisdom that knows exactly what to do, you're collaborating with the same intelligence that maintains perfect order throughout all of creation. The transformation in your mindset, when you truly grasp this responsibility, affects every decision you make. You become incredibly conscious of the thoughts you think, the words you speak, and especially the way you complete that sacred phrase, I am. Behind the scenes of what appears to be casual self-description, you're actually participating in the ongoing creation of your reality, moment by moment, thought by thought, declaration by declaration. Now, I want to go even deeper into the truth that makes this creative power not just possible, but inevitable. You were made in God's image and likeness, but this doesn't refer to physical form or external appearance. The image and likeness of God isn't about having a human body or looking a certain way. It's about essence, about the fundamental nature of what you are at the deepest level of your being. The substance of God is in you as you, not as a separate piece that was somehow inserted into your human form, but as the very fabric of your consciousness, the essential nature of your existence. You don't contain God like a vessel holding water. You are the expression of God, like a wave is the expression of the ocean. The wave isn't separate from the ocean, holding some ocean water within itself. The wave is the ocean, expressing itself in a particular form, while never losing its fundamental ocean nature. This hidden truth revolutionizes everything about how you understand your relationship with the divine and your capacity to create positive change in your life. You're not a limited human being trying to connect with an unlimited God. You are the unlimited expressing itself through human experience. You're not seeking to become something you're not. You're awakening to what you've always been but temporarily forgot. The impact of recognizing this truth reaches into every corner of your existence. Every relationship becomes an encounter between different expressions of the same divine consciousness. Every challenge becomes an opportunity for this infinite intelligence to demonstrate its creative power through your unique circumstances. Every moment becomes a chance to consciously participate in the ongoing creation of reality through the thoughts you choose and the declarations you make. When you make decisions from this understanding, when you speak from this recognition, when you live from this awareness, you're not trying to manipulate external circumstances to match your personal preferences. You're allowing the divine consciousness that you are to express its infinite nature through the beautiful, complex, sometimes challenging experience of being human. The journey of awakening reveals that this isn't a spiritual practice you add to your life. This is life itself, experienced from the recognition of what you truly are. Write in the comments, "I am made in divine likeness," if you're recognizing the sacred essence that forms the foundation of your very being. Living from this recognition brings you to perhaps the most awe-inspiring truth about your existence. The sacred "I am" is not something that was spoken once in ancient times and then became a historical memory. This is the living word that continues to be spoken every moment of every day. And you are the mouth through which God names himself in this present moment. Every time you consciously declare "I am" with spiritual understanding, you're not just repeating an ancient formula or accessing some distant divine power. You are literally becoming the voice through which infinite consciousness identifies itself in the world right now. This understanding transforms your entire relationship with your own thoughts and words. You begin to realize that your consciousness isn't separate from divine consciousness. It is divine consciousness, expressing itself through your unique perspective and circumstances. When you think, God is thinking through you. When you speak with love and wisdom, God is speaking through you. When you make decisions that align with truth and compassion, God is choosing through you. The impact of this recognition on your daily life becomes immediately apparent. You start paying attention to every word that follows "I am," because you understand that you're not just describing yourself, you're actually naming God through your human experience. You become incredibly conscious of the creative power flowing through your thoughts and declarations because you recognize that this isn't personal power you're wielding, but divine power expressing itself through your individual awareness. Behind the scenes of what appears to be ordinary human consciousness, this extraordinary truth is constantly operating. The same intelligence that maintains the orbit of planets around their stars, that knows exactly how to heal a cut on your finger, that coordinates the intricate dance of billions of cells in your body, is the same intelligence that thinks your thoughts and makes your decisions when you align with truth rather than illusion. Now, I want to go even deeper into understanding why this recognition can feel so challenging for many people to accept and live from consistently. The root of virtually all human suffering, regardless of its external appearance or apparent cause, can be traced back to a single source: the illusion of separation. This isn't just one problem among many that humans face. This is the fundamental mistaken idea that creates the mental and emotional environment in which all other forms of suffering can take root and flourish. This illusion manifests as the Persistent, deeply ingrained belief that we are alone, isolated, cut off from our source, separate from God, and left to navigate this challenging world with only our limited human resources. From this false premise, fear becomes inevitable, because if you believe you're truly separate from the source of all life and love, then threat seems to lurk everywhere. Anxiety becomes natural, because if you think you're responsible for controlling outcomes with only your finite human abilities, everything feels overwhelming. The transformation that occurs when you begin to see through this illusion affects every aspect of your human experience. Relationships that seemed impossible to heal suddenly find new possibility because you're no longer protecting yourself from separate beings who might harm you. Instead, you're recognizing different expressions of the same consciousness you are. Work that felt like struggle becomes an opportunity for creative collaboration because you understand that the same intelligence flowing through you is also flowing through every situation, seeking to express harmony and abundance. The journey of awakening reveals that this sense of separation was never real, never true, never actually occurred. It was a mistaken perception, a misunderstanding about the nature of reality that became so widespread and so deeply believed that it seemed like obvious fact. But illusions, no matter how convincing they appear, don't have the power to change truth. They only have the power to hide truth temporarily from your awareness. Write in the comments, "I am never separate," if you're ready to release this fundamental illusion and embrace the truth of your eternal connection to the source of all life. When you truly understand the depth of this illusion of separation, you begin to see the tragic irony of the human condition with perfect clarity. The soul, in its confused state of believing itself separate from its source, lives in a constant state of begging for what it already possesses. It's like watching a fish swimming in the vast ocean, desperately searching for water, crying out in anguish about dying of thirst while being completely surrounded by the very thing it believes it lacks. This metaphor captures the essence of so much human suffering and struggle. We spend our lives desperately seeking love while being made of love itself. We exhaust ourselves trying to find peace, while peace is the very foundation of our being. We work tirelessly to achieve abundance, while swimming in an infinite ocean of divine provision. We search frantically for our purpose, while being the perfect expression of infinite intelligence, having a human experience. The transformation that occurs when you recognize this irony completely shifts your entire approach to living. Instead of asking, "How can I get what I need?" you begin asking, "How can I recognize what I already am?" Instead of striving to become worthy of love, you start remembering that you are love expressing itself in human form. Your mindset shifts from seeking to finding, from pursuing to recognizing, from achieving to simply being. Behind the scenes of every moment of anxiety, every feeling of lack, every experience of loneliness, there is this fundamental misunderstanding operating. You believe you're a separate being, trying to connect with something outside yourself, when in reality, you are the very thing you're seeking, temporarily forgetting your true nature. Every decision you make from this place of forgetting reinforces the illusion and creates more experiences of separation and struggle. But here's the hidden truth that changes everything about your journey of awakening. The great return to wholeness, to peace, to your true nature, isn't something you have to achieve through years of spiritual practice or tremendous personal effort. This return isn't an accomplishment that you earn through good behavior or correct beliefs. The great return is simply a recollection, a remembering, an awakening from what was always only a dream. The separation you've believed in so completely, the distance you've felt from your source, the isolation that has caused so much pain, none of this was ever real. It was a dream, and now you're in the process of waking up. Just as when you wake from a nighttime dream and realize that all the drama, all the fear, all the struggle was only mental activity that never actually threatened your safety, you're beginning to wake up from the dream of separation and recognize that you were never actually apart from the love, wisdom, and abundance that is your true nature. This awakening doesn't require you to become someone different or achieve some impossible standard of spiritual perfection. It simply requires you to stop believing in what was never true and start recognizing what has always been true. The journey back home to yourself isn't about traveling to some distant destination. It's about realizing you never left home in the first place. The impact of this recognition brings immediate relief because it eliminates the pressure to fix yourself, improve yourself, or become worthy of what you already are. You stop exhausting yourself trying to bridge a gap that never actually existed. You begin to rest in the truth of your eternal connection to the source of all life, love, and wisdom. Every moment becomes an opportunity to choose between continuing the dream of separation and awakening to the reality of unity. Every thought becomes a chance to remember rather than forget, to recognize rather than search, to be rather than become. Write in the comments, "I am waking up from the dream," if this truth is stirring the recognition that separation was never real and you're ready to embrace your eternal wholeness. The awakening process brings us face to face with perhaps the most revolutionary understanding about one of history's most influential spiritual teachers. The secret that made Jesus so extraordinarily powerful, so transformative in his impact on human consciousness, wasn't found in any particular doctrine, religious system, or set of beliefs that he taught. His secret wasn't in the parables he told, the miracles he performed, or even the specific words he spoke. The true source of his transformative power was pure consciousness, the consciousness of "I am." This hidden truth changes everything about how we understand his message and mission. Jesus didn't come to establish another religion or create a new set of rules for people to follow. He came to demonstrate a way of being, a level of consciousness, a recognition of identity that is available to every human being. Behind the scenes of all his teachings, all his interactions, all his demonstrations of divine power, was this single, consistent awareness. He knew who he was. Not who he was as Jesus of Nazareth, the carpenter's son, but who he was as the eternal I am, expressing itself through human form. The transformation that occurs when you understand this shifts your entire perspective on what it means to follow his example. Instead of trying to imitate his actions or repeat his words, you begin to cultivate the same consciousness from which his actions and words emerged. Instead of worshipping him as someone completely different from yourself, you start recognizing him as the perfect demonstration of what becomes possible when a human being fully awakens to their divine nature. Every decision Jesus made, every word he spoke, every response he gave, came from this eternal identity that doesn't depend on human circumstances, personal history, family background, or external conditions. When he said, "I am the light of the world," he wasn't speaking from his temporary human personality that was born in Bethlehem and grew up in Nazareth. He was speaking from the timeless presence that existed before any human form and continues to exist regardless of what happens to any individual body or personality. This is the consciousness that enabled him to remain peaceful in the midst of chaos, confident in the face of opposition, and loving toward those who misunderstood or even attacked him. His mindset wasn't shaped by the ups and downs of human experience because his identity was rooted in something that transcends all temporary circumstances. He lived from the recognition that the same infinite consciousness that creates and sustains all of existence was expressing itself as his individual awareness. Now here's where this understanding becomes practical and immediately applicable to your own life. Jesus wasn't demonstrating something that only he could access or achieve. He was showing everyone their own potential, their own true nature, their own capacity to live from this same eternal identity. When he said, "The works that I do, you shall do also, and greater works than these," he wasn't speaking to a select few disciples or specially chosen individuals. He was addressing the divine potential that exists within every human being. The journey of awakening reveals that you too can speak from this eternal presence rather than from your temporary circumstances. You too can make decisions from the I am consciousness rather than from fear, limitation, or past conditioning. You too can respond to challenges from the recognition of your divine nature rather than from the assumption that you're a vulnerable, separate being trying to survive in a hostile world. This doesn't mean pretending that human experiences don't affect you or that you're somehow above the normal challenges of being human. It means recognizing that your essential identity, your true nature, remains unchanged regardless of what you're experiencing on the surface level of life. Write in the comments, "I choose to live from I am consciousness," if you're ready to embrace the same awareness that made Jesus such a powerful demonstration of divine love in human form. When you begin to live from this I am consciousness, you discover something that revolutionizes your understanding of how reality actually works. Everything in creation, from the smallest atom to the vastest galaxy, begins in the mind, not just in a human mind, but in the infinite divine mind that is the source and sustaining power of all existence. The entire universe, with all its complexity, beauty, and intricate design, is actually the living projection of ideas that are continuously sustained in divine consciousness. This isn't just an abstract philosophical concept. This is the fundamental principle behind how your own reality gets created moment by moment. Your personal world, your relationships, your circumstances, your experiences, all of these emerge from the same creative process that brings galaxies into existence. The thoughts you think, the beliefs you hold, the mental images you sustain, these aren't just passive reflections of what's happening to you. They are the very mechanism through which your experience gets shaped and formed. The transformation that occurs when you truly understand this changes your entire approach to life. You stop seeing yourself as a victim of circumstances beyond your control and start recognizing yourself as a conscious participant in the creation of your reality. Every decision you make about what to think, what to believe, what to focus your attention on becomes an act of collaboration with the same creative intelligence that designs snowflakes and orchestrates the movement of planets. But here's the crucial distinction that separates true spiritual understanding from mere positive thinking or wishful manifestation techniques. The thoughts that have real creative power are not just any random thoughts you decide to think. The thoughts that actually shape reality are unified thoughts, thoughts that are aligned with truth, thoughts that emerge from your recognition of unity rather than from the illusion of separation. When your thinking aligns with the fundamental truth that there is only one consciousness, only one power, only one source expressing itself through infinite variety, then your thoughts become channels through which divine intelligence can create harmony, abundance, healing, and love. You're not trying to manipulate reality through mental force or personal willpower. You're not creating alone, struggling to impose your individual desires on an uncooperative universe. Instead, you're collaborating with the One, allowing the same intelligence that maintains perfect order throughout all of creation to think through you, plan through you, and manifest through you. The impact of this collaboration becomes evident in how effortlessly solutions appear, how naturally opportunities arise, how gracefully challenges resolve themselves when you align your thinking with divine truth rather than human limitation. Behind the scenes of what appears to be ordinary human thinking, this extraordinary creative process is always operating. The mind that recognizes its unity with divine consciousness becomes a clear channel through which infinite intelligence can express itself in practical, tangible ways. Your thoughts become prayers, your mental images become blueprints, your sustained beliefs become the invisible foundation upon which your visible experiences are built. The journey of awakening reveals that you're not separate from the creative process that brings worlds into existence. You are that process, expressing itself through your individual awareness. Every time you choose thoughts of love over thoughts of fear, thoughts of abundance over thoughts of lack, thoughts of unity over thoughts of separation, you're participating in the same creative activity that spoke light into darkness and called order out of chaos. This understanding elevates every moment of your day into an opportunity for conscious creation. Whether you're dealing with relationships, work challenges, health concerns, or financial matters, you have access to the same unlimited creative intelligence that designed the intricate ecosystem of a forest and coordinates the perfect timing of seasonal changes. Write in the comments, "I am a conscious creator," if you're ready to embrace your role as a collaborator with divine intelligence in shaping your reality through aligned thinking. This collaboration with divine intelligence reveals itself most powerfully when you understand the profound difference between asking from anxiety and declaring from certainty. When you study the way Jesus approached challenges, needs, and seemingly impossible situations, you notice something remarkable. He never pleaded, never begged, never asked with the desperate energy of someone who wasn't sure if their request would be granted. Instead, he declared with absolute certainty, because his thoughts weren't coming from human desire, but from divine decree. When he stood before the tomb of Lazarus, he didn't anxiously ask God to maybe, possibly if it was okay, bring his friend back to life. He simply declared, "Lazarus, come forth," with the same certainty that you might use to call someone in from another room. When he multiplied the loaves and fishes, he didn't worry about whether there would be enough. He simply gave thanks for the abundance that he knew was already present and then distributed it. His mindset was completely free from the anxiety that comes from believing you're separate from your source of supply. This is the transformation that occurs when your thinking aligns with divine truth rather than human limitation. You stop approaching life from the perspective of lack, hoping that somehow, some way, your needs might be met. Instead, you begin to recognize that the same infinite abundance that sustains the entire universe is expressing itself as your individual life. Your words become decrees rather than desperate requests, because you understand that you're not asking a distant God to intervene in your circumstances. You're allowing the divine intelligence that you are to express its unlimited nature through your specific situation. Behind the scenes of this certainty lies perhaps the most profound truth about the nature of existence itself, the foundation of all reality, the source from which everything emerges, the power that sustains every atom and orchestrates every heartbeat, is pure, unconditional love. Not the emotional, conditional, need-based love that humans often experience, but love in its absolute, perfect, impersonal, eternal form. This is love as the very substance of existence, love as the creative force that calls all things into being and holds them in perfect harmony. The hidden truth that revolutionizes everything is that this love has never been outside of you, has never been withheld from you, has never been something you needed to earn or deserve or achieve. This love cannot be lost because it's not separate from what you are. You don't have love, you are love. You don't receive love from an external source, you are the expression of love itself, having a human experience. The impact of recognizing this truth affects every aspect of your life because it eliminates the fundamental fear that drives most human suffering, the fear of being unloved, unworthy, or abandoned. When you understand that you are literally made of the same love that creates stars and grows flowers, every decision you make starts coming from security rather than fear, from abundance rather than lack, from peace rather than anxiety. This love doesn't judge your mistakes, doesn't withdraw when you make poor choices, doesn't punish you for being imperfect. This is the love that continues to beat your heart, even when you forget to be grateful, that continues to breathe life into your lungs even when you doubt your worth, that continues to sustain your existence even when you believe you're separate from your source. The journey of awakening reveals that every moment of feeling unloved, unworthy, or alone is simply a temporary forgetting of what has always been true. You are the love of God expressing itself in human form. Every breath you take is love breathing. Every thought you think is love thinking. Every step you take is love walking through the world. Write in the comments, "I am love expressing," if you're ready to recognize that you don't need to seek love because you are the very love you've been searching for. When you begin to live from the recognition that you are love expressing itself in human form, this understanding naturally leads to one of the most liberating revelations about human relationships and the nature of forgiveness. True forgiveness isn't the condescending act of a superior person graciously pardoning someone who has wronged them. Real forgiveness is actually a form of awakening, a moment of spiritual clarity where you see beyond the surface appearance of offense to recognize what's really happening beneath the drama. The transformation that occurs when you understand the deeper mechanics of forgiveness changes everything about how you relate to difficult people and challenging situations. When someone appears to hurt you, betray you, or treat you unfairly, the awakened consciousness recognizes that this offense isn't actually coming from the I am presence within that person. It's coming from their temporary ignorance of their own true nature, their momentary forgetting of who they really are, their unconscious identification with fear rather than love. This recognition completely shifts your mindset about how to respond to difficult behavior. Instead of taking it personally, instead of creating elaborate stories about why someone would intentionally hurt you, instead of building cases for why they deserve punishment or rejection, you begin to see their actions as a cry for help from someone who has temporarily lost touch with their divine nature. Behind the scenes of their offensive behavior is a soul that has forgotten its connection to love and is acting from the pain of that perceived separation. The impact of this understanding reaches far beyond just feeling better about difficult relationships. When you truly forgive from this place of awakening, you're not just releasing your resentment or choosing to be the bigger person. You're actually helping to dissolve the illusion of separation that created the conflict in the first place. Your recognition of their true nature beneath their confused behavior becomes a form of healing energy that can help them remember who they really are. Now, I want to go even deeper into understanding why this illusion of separation creates so many problems in human experience. Every idea of evil, every experience of conflict, every form of struggle and suffering can be traced back to a single source: the belief in more than one power operating in the universe. The moment the mind accepts the premise that there are opposing forces, competing wills, conflicting interests, duality becomes the framework through which all experience gets interpreted. This belief in duality creates inevitable tension because if you think there are multiple powers at work, then you must constantly be vigilant about which power is winning, which force you need to align with, which side you should choose. Your decisions become strategies for navigating between competing interests rather than expressions of the one consciousness that seeks harmony in all situations. You live in a constant state of low-level anxiety because you never know when some opposing force might threaten your security, your happiness, or your well-being. The hidden truth that dissolves this entire framework of struggle is breathtakingly simple. There is only one power, one intelligence, one love expressing itself through infinite variety. What appears to be evil, opposition, or conflict is simply the temporary absence of conscious connection to this one source. Just as darkness is not a force opposing light but simply the absence of light, what we call evil is not a power opposing good, but simply the absence of conscious awareness of our unity with divine love. The journey of awakening reveals that you can stop fighting against evil and instead focus on shining the light of truth. You can stop trying to overcome opposition and instead recognize the one consciousness that seeks to express harmony through every situation. You can stop defending yourself against attack and instead extend the love that dissolves the illusion of separation. Write in the comments, there is only one power, if you're ready to release the belief in duality and embrace the truth that only love is real and everything else is a call for love. The recognition that there is only one power operating in the universe leads to a profound shift in how you approach what appears to be evil, opposition, or conflict in your life. Instead of fighting against these appearances, instead of declaring war on negativity, instead of trying to overcome what seems to oppose you, you begin to understand that there is no two to fight against. Everything that appears contrary to divine love and harmony is simply the temporary absence of conscious awareness, like a shadow that disappears. The moment light is introduced, this understanding transforms your entire strategy for dealing with difficult situations. When you encounter behavior that seems harmful, circumstances that appear threatening, or conditions that feel overwhelming, your first impulse is no longer to resist, fight, or push against what you don't want. Instead, you begin to ask yourself, how can I bring more consciousness to this situation? How can I shine the light of truth into this apparent darkness? How can I remember the one power that is always working for good, even when appearances suggest otherwise? The impact of this shift in mindset reaches every corner of your existence. Behind the scenes of what appears to be a chaotic world filled with problems that need to be solved through struggle and effort, you begin to recognize opportunities for consciousness to remember itself. Every challenging person becomes a chance to extend love to someone who has temporarily forgotten their divine nature. Every difficult circumstance becomes an invitation for divine intelligence to demonstrate its unlimited creativity in transforming situations. The journey of awakening reveals that you don't need to become a spiritual warrior battling the forces of darkness. You simply need to become so filled with the light of truth that darkness naturally dissolves in your presence. You don't need to fight against what you don't want. You just need to become so aligned with what you do want: love, peace, harmony, abundance, that these qualities naturally express themselves through your thoughts, words, and actions. Now, here's where this understanding moves from beautiful spiritual philosophy into practical, daily transformation. The truth about your unity with divine consciousness isn't meant to be something you contemplate during meditation or remember only in moments of spiritual inspiration. This truth must be lived daily, moment by moment, choice by choice, breath by breath. The law of the One reveals itself most powerfully not in extraordinary mystical experiences, but in the ordinary moments when you remember that you're not separate from the source of all life and love. This recognition changes everything about how you approach your everyday decisions. When you're stuck in traffic, instead of letting frustration build, you remember that the same intelligence that coordinates the movement of planets is also orchestrating your day, and you relax into trust. When you're dealing With a difficult colleague, instead of seeing them as an obstacle to your happiness, you recognize another expression of divine consciousness that has temporarily forgotten its true nature, and you respond from love rather than irritation. The transformation occurs in these seemingly small moments because they're actually opportunities to choose between living from the illusion of separation and living from the truth of unity. Every interaction becomes a chance to extend the consciousness of oneness into a world that has forgotten this truth. Every challenge becomes an opportunity to demonstrate that there is indeed only one power, and that power is always working for the highest good of all. The hidden truth is that these daily moments of remembering your unity with divine consciousness are actually the building blocks of a completely transformed life. It's not the dramatic spiritual breakthroughs that create lasting change, but the consistent choice to see through the eyes of love, rather than fear, to respond from unity rather than separation, to trust in the one power rather than believing in opposing forces. Write in the comments, "I choose consciousness in every moment." If you're ready to make the law of the one a living reality in your daily experience rather than just a beautiful spiritual concept. When you commit to living the law of the one as a daily practice rather than just an inspiring concept, you quickly discover that your words become incredibly powerful, tools for either reinforcing the illusion of separation or affirming the truth of unity. The conscious use of affirmation, particularly with the sacred phrase, "I am," becomes one of the most practical ways to align your human consciousness with divine truth and literally create your reality from the inside out. Most people unknowingly use this creative power against themselves throughout the day. They declare, "I am tired, I am stressed, I am broke, I am confused," without realizing that they're using the most sacred name of God to call these experiences into manifestation. Every time you say "I am," followed by a limitation, you're employing divine creative power to generate more of that limitation in your life. The universe doesn't argue with your declarations. It simply responds by creating experiences that match whatever you're claiming to be. The transformation that occurs when you become conscious of this creative process is immediate and profound. Instead of unconsciously affirming lack, weakness, or confusion, you begin to deliberately declare divine truth about your nature and circumstances. When you say, "I am the peace of God," expressing here and now, you're not trying to convince yourself of something that isn't true. You're remembering something that is eternally true and allowing that truth to manifest through your experience. Behind the scenes of every conscious affirmation is the recognition that you're not creating from your limited human perspective, but collaborating with infinite intelligence. When you affirm, "I am divine wisdom knowing exactly what to do," you're not claiming to have all the answers through your personality. You're acknowledging that the same intelligence that maintains perfect order throughout the cosmos is expressing itself as your ability to make wise decisions. The impact of this practice extends far beyond the moments when you're actively making affirmations. Your entire mindset begins to shift from identifying with temporary circumstances to recognizing your eternal nature. Every decision you make starts coming from the awareness of who you truly are, rather than from the anxiety of who you think you need to become. Now, I want to go even deeper into one of the most essential yet overlooked aspects of spiritual awakening, the profound importance of creative silence. In our world of constant noise, endless information, and perpetual mental chatter, we've lost touch with the most sacred space of all, the silence where divine guidance naturally emerges. God doesn't shout over the chaos of modern life. The voice of infinite wisdom whispers, and to hear it clearly, you must quiet everything else that competes for your attention. This isn't just about finding time for meditation or creating peaceful environments, though those can be helpful. Creative silence is about cultivating an inner stillness that allows the deeper intelligence within you to emerge and guide your thoughts, decisions, and actions. When your mind becomes still, when the constant stream of worry, planning, and mental commentary finally settles, you discover that there's a profound wisdom already present within you that knows exactly what you need to know, exactly when you need to know it. The hidden truth is that this divine guidance isn't something you need to seek outside yourself or earn through spiritual practices. It's the natural expression of your unity with infinite intelligence. When you create space for silence, you're not trying to contact God from a distance. You're allowing the God consciousness that you are to speak clearly through your human awareness without the interference of mental noise and emotional turbulence. The journey of conscious living reveals that some of your most important insights, most creative solutions, and most profound realizations come not from thinking harder or gathering more information, but from simply becoming still enough to hear the wisdom that's already present within you. In these moments of creative silence, the artificial boundary between human consciousness and divine consciousness dissolves, and you remember that thinking with God is your natural state. Write in the comments, "I embrace divine silence," if you're ready to create space for the whispered guidance of infinite wisdom to emerge through your stillness. When you create space for this divine silence to guide your life, something beautiful and natural begins to emerge. The desire to serve, but not from obligation, duty, or the need to prove your worth. Instead, you find yourself wanting to express the love and intelligence that flows through you in ways that benefit others. This is what true impersonal service looks like, serving from the pure joy of allowing divine consciousness to express itself through your unique gifts and circumstances, knowing that there is no other you're serving separate from yourself. The transformation that occurs when you understand service, from this perspective, changes everything about how you approach your work, your relationships, and your contribution to the world. You stop serving from the exhausting mindset of sacrifice, where you give up your own well-being to help others. Instead, you begin serving from overflow, from the recognition that the same consciousness that seeks to express love through you is also the consciousness that experiences that love through those you serve. Behind the scenes of what appears to be you, helping someone else, there's actually one divine intelligence expressing love to itself through the beautiful illusion of separate forms. When you truly grasp this, service becomes effortless because you're not depleting yourself to fill someone else's lack. You're allowing the infinite source of all love and wisdom to flow through you to exactly where it needs to go, trusting that this same source will always provide everything you need for your own well-being. The impact of this understanding extends far beyond acts of obvious service. Every interaction becomes an opportunity to practice the law of the one in action. The way you treat the person checking your groceries, the patience you show to someone learning a new skill, the kindness you extend to yourself when you make mistakes, all of these become expressions of divine love, recognizing itself everywhere it looks. Now, I want to go even deeper into how this recognition of oneness transforms your relationship with abundance and prosperity. True abundance isn't about accumulating wealth or possessions, though these may certainly flow into your experience. Real abundance is the constant, uninterrupted manifestation of good in whatever form is needed for your highest well-being and the highest good of all. It's the recognition that the source of all supply is infinite and that this source expresses itself as your life. The hidden truth that revolutionizes your entire approach to financial security and material well-being is this: any experience of scarcity, lack, or limitation is actually a denial of the law of the one. When you believe that you're separate from your source of supply, when you think that abundance comes from external circumstances rather than from the infinite creativity within you, You're unconsciously affirming that there are multiple powers at work, some that provide and some that withhold. But when you understand that the source of all abundance is within you as the very consciousness that you are, everything changes. Your mindset shifts from trying to get abundance from the world to allowing abundance to flow through you into the world. You stop making decisions from fear about whether there will be enough and start making choices from the confidence that the same intelligence that provides for every bird and flower also provides for you through your recognition of your unity with infinite supply. The journey of awakening reveals that abundance isn't something you attract or achieve through special techniques or positive thinking. Abundance is something you remember, something you allow, something you stop blocking through beliefs in separation and limitation. The divine consciousness that you are knows only wholeness, completeness, and perfect provision. When you align your thinking with this truth, your external circumstances naturally begin to reflect this inner recognition. Every decision you make about money, career, or material security becomes an opportunity to either affirm your unity with infinite abundance or reinforce the illusion of separation and lack. When you choose thoughts, words, and actions that acknowledge the unlimited source within you, you become a clear channel through which divine abundance can express itself in practical, tangible ways. Write in the comments, "Abundance flows through me," if you're ready to release beliefs in scarcity and embrace your role as a channel for infinite supply. When you begin to live from the recognition that abundance flows through you as the natural expression of your unity with infinite supply, this same understanding leads to perhaps the most profound revelation about the nature of peace. Most people believe that peace is the absence of conflict, the elimination of problems, or the achievement of perfect external circumstances. They spend their lives trying to arrange their environment, control other people's behavior, and manage situations in hopes of finally finding the peace they seek. But true peace isn't the absence of conflict or the presence of perfect conditions. Real peace is the presence of the one within you, the recognition of your eternal unity with divine consciousness that remains unshakable, regardless of what appears to be happening in your external world. This peace doesn't depend on your circumstances, your relationships, your health, your finances, or any external factor. It depends entirely on your remembrance of who you truly are. The transformation that occurs when you understand this changes your entire approach to finding peace and happiness. Instead of trying to fix everything around you to feel peaceful, you begin to cultivate the inner recognition that peace is your natural state, because you are one with the source of all peace. Your mindset shifts from "I'll be at peace when" to "I am peace," expressing itself through whatever I'm experiencing right now. Behind the scenes of every moment of anxiety, stress, or inner turmoil is a temporary forgetting of this fundamental truth. When you remember that the consciousness reading these words is the same consciousness that maintains perfect harmony throughout the entire cosmos, when you recall that the awareness observing your thoughts is one with infinite intelligence, peace naturally returns, not as something you've achieved, but as something you've stopped blocking through beliefs in separation. The impact of this recognition reaches into every aspect of your daily experience. You can be dealing with challenging circumstances while remaining inwardly peaceful, because you understand that your essential nature can't be threatened by temporary conditions. You can navigate difficult relationships with grace, because you know that the peace you are doesn't depend on other people's choices or behaviors. Every decision you make starts coming from this foundation of unshakable inner peace, rather than from the anxiety of trying to control outcomes. Now, I want to go even deeper into what represents the culmination of this entire journey of awakening, the final recognition that brings with it a profound sense of rest and absolute certainty. This isn't final, because it's the last thing that happens to you chronologically, but because there's nothing more to seek, nothing more to achieve, nothing more to become after this recognition settles into your consciousness as living truth. The final awakening comes when you can say, with complete conviction, not as an affirmation you're trying to believe, but as a statement of obvious fact, everything is well because there is only God, and God is in me as me. This isn't positive thinking or spiritual bypassing of life's challenges. This is the recognition that beneath all appearances, through all experiences, beyond all temporary circumstances, the fundamental reality remains unchanged and unchanging. When this truth becomes more than intellectual understanding and transforms into lived experience, you discover a rest that surpasses all human comprehension. You stop struggling to become someone different, to fix what seems broken, to control what appears chaotic. You rest in the certainty that the same infinite intelligence that spoke galaxies into existence is expressing itself as your individual life, and therefore everything is ultimately working for the highest good of all. The hidden truth is that this rest isn't passivity or resignation. It's the most powerful state of being imaginable, because when you're resting in the truth of your oneness with divine intelligence, you become a clear channel through which that intelligence can work miracles through your thoughts, words, and actions. Write in the comments, "I rest in divine certainty," if you're ready to embrace this final recognition that everything is well because you and God are one. When you rest in this divine certainty, when you truly live from the recognition that you and God are one, your entire existence becomes a living prayer, a walking meditation, a continuous celebration of the truth that has always been. You no longer need to search for meaning, because you are the meaning that infinite consciousness gives to itself. You no longer need to seek purpose, because you are the purpose through which divine love expresses itself in the world. This journey we've taken together through these profound teachings of Emmet Fox isn't just about understanding spiritual concepts or feeling inspired for a few moments. This is about recognizing the most fundamental truth of your existence and allowing that recognition to transform every aspect of how you live, breathe, think, and relate to the world around you. When you truly grasp that the I am speaking through your consciousness is the same I am that creates galaxies and sustains all of life, everything changes. If you've stayed with me through this entire exploration, if these words have touched something deep within your soul that recognizes itself in this truth, then you're part of a growing community of awakened hearts who are choosing to live from unity rather than separation. The content we share here isn't just information, it's transformation. These aren't just videos, they're invitations to remember who you truly are and to live from that remembrance. I create these teachings because I know there are souls like yours who are ready to move beyond the illusion of separation and embrace the truth of oneness. If this message has resonated with you, if you want to continue receiving these life-changing spiritual insights, I'd love for you to subscribe to the channel. This way, you'll never miss the profound teachings that can support your journey back to wholeness. And if you've made it all the way to this moment, if you've absorbed these truths and felt them stirring something eternal within you, leave a comment saying, "I remember who I am," so I know that this message found its way to exactly the right person at exactly the right time. When you share that phrase, you're not just commenting, you're declaring your recognition of the divine truth within you. If you felt that connection throughout our time together, if these words created a bridge between your human experience and your divine nature, a simple like would mean the world to me. It tells me that this content is reaching the hearts it's meant to touch and creating the transformation it's designed to inspire. There's a video right here that complements this topic perfectly, diving even deeper into how to live these truths in practical daily ways. Click and continue with me over there, because the journey of awakening never ends. It only gets more beautiful, more profound, and more transformative with each recognition of who you truly are. Until we meet again in the next teaching, remember, you are not separate, you never were, and you never could be. You are the one, expressing itself as the beautiful, unique, irreplaceable you.